Welcome, traveler, to Vivec City, the city of swords, jewel of the inner sea, and home to the god king of the Dunmer himself. While nearby Ebonheart might be the center of imperial commerce and governance within the region, Vivec City remains the most popular destination on the island for travelers from all across the empire. In an otherwise strange and dangerous land, Vivec is the one place where you can get a taste of civilization and the comfort, the likes of which you won't find often this far east. We arrive at Vivec by boat. The local ships travel around the coast and many converge here, bringing travelers and traders from all around the island. There is also a Siltstrider, the native transport of choice, which you can take to other nearby locations further from the coast. Upon arrival, one might first be in awe of the immensity of the place and the unique architectural design. Unlike many other cities and towns in Vvardenfell, Vivec follows a much older architectural design you won't see much elsewhere, outside of perhaps some ancient ruins. Most of the city is entirely enclosed by large towers or cantons, which each house dozens of shops, apartments, and other locations you might want to visit during your stay here. Sometimes called the City of Water, the easiest way to travel around Vivec is using the many canal boats, which will quickly ferry you between the different cantons. While the layout of the city may be confusing for tourists, be sure that the gondoliers know where to go. Our first stop on our city tour is the Foreign Quarter. While foreigners and imperial tourists like yourself can now travel freely around the city, the Foreign Quarter remains the most welcoming and hospitable place for outsiders. Here you will find many of the imperial comforts you'd expect out of any Cyrodiil in Cyrodiil. The Foreign Quarter is the largest and arguably the busiest place in all of Vivec City. While several of the other cantons are set aside for Dunmer noble houses and as housing for locals, the Foreign Quarter is a place where most of the commerce in the city is conducted. Shops and cellars line the halls, and this is the one part of the city where you can basically find everything you might need. One shop you might like to visit is Jobasha's Rare Books, one of the few places in Vvardenfell where you can find a huge selection of unique and rare tomes for sale, if you're interested in some literature during your stay. Heading down to the canal works, we stop by the Imperial Shrine to say a short prayer before heading to another local favorite, Jarasa the Healer, who sells a variety of potions, ingredients, and unique spells, which can help you out on your journey. A few levels up, we reach the domed plaza. This space is mostly dedicated to the Imperial guilds of mages and fighters, so members might want to check in and take advantage of the local accommodations they might offer. Lastly, before we leave, we will stop by the Black Shult Corner Club. This place is the largest pub in the city, offering spacious rooms to visitors and a wide selection of local as well as imported drinks. The food offerings are modest and suited to the diverse clientele which often make their way through the establishment. I, for one, love a mug of the local matse rice beer with a little bit of scuttle to chew on. In terms of decor, it's fairly utilitarian, and I'd say it's a bit on the rowdy side at times, as parties of mercenaries and traders often come down to party before setting out the next day. So if you're in the mood to relax, you'd be better off elsewhere. I have heard some rumors of a secret Daedra shrine beneath the district. However, I'd advise against any but the most hardened travelers trying to seek it out. Leaving the Foreign Quarter, we head next to the arena. Those of you visiting from Cyrodiil might be a bit disappointed as there are no scheduled fights to spectate and no betting allowed by order of the temple. If you're lucky, you might be able to catch one of the ritual combats which the Dunmer sometimes hold for the sake of family honor or other such things, but don't rely on it. Still, it's worth passing through just for some sightseeing, and you might be able to catch some gladiators walking around for autographs. Now, a large portion of Vivec City is set aside for the local Dunmeri noble houses. The three major families which hold territory on Vvardenfell all have their administrative centers set up in Vivec City. I imagine for the sake of the temple keeping a close eye on all of them. While these districts don't have much for outsiders, they do offer some hidden gems, which many tourists to Vivec might overlook. Let's start with the Rean Canton. The Stoic House Rean is not terribly concerned with commerce or trade, so don't expect to find many shops here. Even the plaza looks like a fortress, with the large walled manors of various nobles. The harsh plant life from their home territory in the Ashlands only further serves to emphasize how unwelcoming this part of the city is to tourists. One flower in the ash, so to speak, is the Flowers of Gold Inn and Pub. Standing out from the otherwise rough and homogeneous design of Vivec's cantons, this brightly decorated pub is arguably the calmest and most soothing place to get some food and drink in the city. Small candlelit tables and the welcoming decor make this an interesting destination for a potential date night with one of the local ladies, or even just a quiet evening to enjoy some imported Cyrodiilic whiskey. Moving on to Halalu Canton, while much of it is still dedicated to house administration, it also boasts an impressive shopping district for the more concerned buyer in its plaza. Upscale shops selling clothing, armor, alchemy ingredients, and more line the streets of this bustling segment of the canton, alongside manors for Halalu nobles. Gone are the towering walls and guarded fortresses of the Red Ring Plaza. Here you can see why the Halalu are considered the greatest friends of the Empire in Morrowind. And in general, this district is much more welcoming to tourists than others outside of the Foreign Quarter. There's no shortage of choice for drinking establishments here either. Much like in Cyrodiil, the Dunmer love to finalize a deal over drinks. Both of these pubs definitely cater more to locals, with no imported liquors available and a mix of local fares for the pub goers to enjoy. Elven Nation's pub is the classier of the two, with ample space to relax and a more refined atmosphere, although I'd still put it below Flowers of Gold in terms of ambiance. It is not as busy as Black Shulk either. The other establishment is No Name Club, a hole-in-the-wall dive bar of sorts, serving cheap drinks. It's a fine place if you want to kick back on the cheap, but law-abiding Imperial citizens should be wary, as moon sugar seems to be sold and smoked openly here. Next, on to Vvardenfell Canton. The Telvanni have always been the least amicable towards outsiders, and visiting their district really gives you the impression that these wizard lords do not want to be here. The plaza is a mess of storage units and other utilitarian buildings of little use for anyone except members of the house. That being said, however, if one is more magically inclined, you will find no better place in the city for your shopping needs. This is the true hidden gem of Vivec. The plethora of options from enchanters to alchemists to spells, you can find practically everything a discerning mage might desire. And even some rare items or spells if you're lucky. Note that some of the shops will refuse service to outsiders, so don't expect warm treatment everywhere you go. That being said, so long as you have the coin, the Telvanni will often deal with you regardless. Nearby the shops, you'll also find the Lizard's Head Tavern. This is an interesting place, comfortable and offering a wide selection of drinks, both foreign and local, as well as some hearty food. My server appeared to be an Argonian slave, which might be distasteful to some travelers from the west, but it is an unfortunate fact of life here in Morrowind, especially in the Telvanni areas. I did inquire with the bar owner about the name Lizardhead. She pointed me towards a dusty storage closet with a ghastly looking mounted Argonian's head shoved off in a corner. Apparently, with the increase of travelers from elsewhere in the Empire, having the stuffed head of an Argonian mounted proudly behind the bar was a bit too much for many of the patrons. Leaving this part of the city, we come to the two major residential areas of Vivec, St. Dielan and St. Olm's Cantons, which offer modest apartments for the common folk of the city. Between these two, I'd say St. Olm's is more worth your visit, as St. Dielan's has little to offer a tourist besides maybe a visit to the Potter and Glassmaker's Trade Hall, if you're interested in some local crafts as a souvenir. St. Olm's is home to a large temple dedicated to the namesake patron saint. Tourists interested in Dunmer culture might chance a visit. However, the highlight of this district for more thrifty shoppers are the trade halls, offering a huge amount of local goods from across Vvardenfell at very reasonable prices. These local markets offer bulk products for those interested in import-export business, or just a sampling of exotic and strange wares from across the east, which you might be of interest for a brave buyer. You'll be the talk of Talos Plaza for sure when you return home with a block of raw ebony straight from the Red Mountain as a souvenir. Our last stop on the tour is the Temple District, with the palace of the Dunmer god Vivec towering behind, and the imposing meteor which houses the Ministry of Truth looming above. The Dunmeri Temple is a strange and frightening place for many outsiders. However, the High Fane, the largest temple on the island, still offers an incredible sightseeing opportunity to interested cultural tourists. Statues of Lord Vivec and his mythical deeds adorn the courtyards of the temple, while a shrine to him sits under the imposing rock of Bardao above. Locals often leave flowers in thanks to their god king for stopping this meteor from crashing into their land. However, the fact that it still floats above the city menacingly, combined with the fact that it is said to hold terrible prisons within it, is enough to unnerve the average Western tourist. After some sightseeing around the temple itself, some travelers might be interested in visiting the city library of Vivec. This library houses the largest collection of books on the island, and is an excellent place to rest for a while and browse if one is of the more literary inclination. Finally, we come to the palace of Lord Vivec himself. While this section is off limits to all but the highest ranking members of the Tribunal Temple, ambitious visitors might be interested in testing their endurance and wits in the Puzzle Canal, which sits beneath the palace itself. A maze of waterways make up this so-called canal, but deep within is a shrine honoring courtesy, which adventurers might wish to seek out. With that, we end our tour of the city. Vivec certainly is an interesting place, with its maze-like corridors and gloomy districts lit only by paper lanterns. It's not like anything you'd ever see in Cyrodiil or anywhere in the West, frankly. Whether you plan to spend a day shopping in the Foreign Quarter, or several getting to know the canals and the locals of the various other cantons, Vivec is something for everyone, and we at the Imperial Ministry of Tourism proclaim that it is a must-visit on your trip to Vvardenfell. So next time you're traveling to Ebonheart for business, consider stopping by the Black Shelf Corner Club for a pint or two.